All right, let's dive into one of the biggest infrastructure stories happening anywhere in the world right now. India's absolutely massive data center boom. You can think of it like a modern-day gold rush. But instead of digging for gold, companies are in a flat-out race to build these digital fortresses that will store India's most valuable resource, its data. And the scale of this thing? It is just staggering.
Just look at this number, 3,000 megawatts. That's the amount of data center capacity India is projected to have by 2030. Now, to give you a sense of scale, that is nearly a threefold increase from where the country is today. So yeah, this isn't just steady growth, it's a full-on digital big bang. But what exactly are we talking about building here?
Before we go any further, let's just quickly get on the same page about what a data center really is. The easiest way to think about it is like a super high-tech fortified warehouse. But, instead of storing boxes, it stores, protects, and processes unbelievable amounts of digital information. It's the engine room of the internet, a digital bank vault. It's the physical backbone of our entire online world.
So to really wrap our heads around this boom, we kind of need to understand the machine at the heart of it all. So let's pop the hood and take a quick look at what makes these massive places tick.
Okay, first things first, power. Data centers are incredibly thirsty for power, and that power can never, ever go out. That's why they have layers upon layers of redundancy. They're usually hooked up to two completely separate power grids. If somehow both of those fail, a massive bank of batteries, that's the uninterrupted power supply, or UPS, kicks in instantly. At the same time, huge backup diesel generators are firing up to take over for the long haul. It's a total obsession with being online, always.
Now, all of that power, all those computers, they generate a tremendous amount of heat. So the second critical piece of the puzzle is cooling. You've got thousands of servers running 24/7. Without these huge computer room air handling units, or CRAS, they would literally cook themselves. These systems keep everything at the absolute perfect temperature and humidity. And this, by the way, helps explain why water is the ultimate enemy in a data center fire. You can't just spray water all over priceless electronics, right? So instead, they use these specialized gas-based systems that suck the oxygen out of the room to kill the flames without damaging the gear.
And finally, you've got connectivity and security. I mean, the data has to get in and out, and that happens through these bundles of high-speed fiber optic cables. They all come together in a central nerve center, which has the cool name of a meet me room. And the entire facility, it's a fortress. We're talking 24/7 digital monitoring and a level of physical security that would probably rival a military base.
Okay, so we know what they are, we know what's inside them, but why? Why is India building so many of these so incredibly fast? Well, it turns out there are three really powerful forces that are just pouring fuel on this fire.
The first driver is just the mind-boggling amount of data that all of us are creating every single day. And to really get the scale here, you have to learn a new word: zettabytes. Okay, so 1 zettabyte is 1,000,000,000,000 gigabytes. Back in 2018, the world created 33 of them. By 2025, that's expected to hit 175. The amount of data in the world is literally doubling every few years, and all of it has to live somewhere. And a huge chunk of that data explosion? Well, it comes from our own habits, specifically our love for video. It already makes up most of our mobile data traffic, and its share is just getting bigger and bigger. It's projected to hit 82% by 2030. Seriously, every single time you stream a movie or watch a reel or jump on a video call, yep, you are directly fueling the need for more of these data centers. But the new game changer, the real accelerator here, is artificial intelligence. Right now, AI workloads make up about 15% of what data centers do. By 2030, that number is expected to jump to 35%. AI is, without a doubt, becoming the single biggest job for data centers, and it is a completely different kind of beast.
And here's what that really means. AI isn't just another app you run. Training these incredibly complex models requires an exponential leap in computing power, which in turn demands an exponential amount of electricity. This isn't just adding a little more demand to the system, it's like strapping a rocket engine to the entire data center industry.
So we've got this massive global demand for data storage, and it's being supercharged by AI. But that brings up a big question. Why is so much of this new hardware being built in India specifically? Let's take a look at the unique mix of factors that make India the perfect spot for this boom.
The first reason is just simple economics. It is significantly cheaper to build a data center in India. The initial cost, the capital expenditure, or CAPEX, it's about $7 per watt in India compared to $10 a watt in the US.
And when you're building at the scale of thousands of megawatts, believe me, that difference adds up to billions and billions of dollars in savings. And it's not just cheaper to build them, they're also cheaper to run. Electricity is the single biggest ongoing cost for any data center, and here again, India has an edge. Power costs are about 20% lower than what you'd find in the US. But look, cost is only part of the story. A huge driver here has been a major push from the Indian government itself. It really started back in 2018, when the Reserve Bank of India said, hey, all payment data, it has to be stored right here in the country. And since then, newer laws around data protection and really ambitious goals for an AI-powered economy are all creating powerful reasons for companies to keep Indian data on Indian soil. And this isn't just a top-down thing from the national government. Oh no. You've got state governments who are now actively competing with each other to become the next big data hub. They are rolling out the red carpet with things like cheaper power, tax breaks, and other perks to attract these massive investments. So, you put it all together, you've got surging demand, you've got favorable economics, and you've got strong government support. The result? A booming industry. So let's look at the actual players involved and the kind of money at stake in this digital gold rush.
When you actually look at the market, you might be surprised to see that it's pretty consolidated. The top 5 players here, led by NTT and STT, they control about 3/4 of the total capacity in India today.
Now, these companies make money in 2 main ways. The first is called co-location, which is basically a high-tech real estate business. They build the facility and they rent out secure space, power, and cooling. It's very stable, gives you a nice, steady return. The second way is cloud infrastructure. This is where they don't just provide the space, but all the computing hardware too, selling virtual servers and storage. This one costs a lot more to get into, but the potential for growth is way, way higher.
And that potential for growth brings us to what is, I think, the single most important statistic in this entire story. Get ready for this. Right now, India generates 20% of the entire world's data. 20%. And yet, it currently has only 3% of the world's data center capacity to actually store it.
In that gap, that massive gap right there explains everything. The crazy demand, the favorable costs, the government policies, it's all part of this huge national push to close that fundamental mismatch. The race to build 3,000 megawatts of capacity is really a race to build a digital infrastructure that can finally match the true scale of India's digital economy. And this all leads to a fascinating final question. As India rushes to build the infrastructure to store and really control its own data, moving from just being a huge data generator to a major data custodian, you have to ask, are we watching the foundations of a new digital empire being built? What does it mean for the future of the internet when 20% of the world's data isn't just created, but is also stored and processed within a single rising digital power? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.